In Shaivait's language, there is this understanding. The first step equals to the last step. So from the get-going, we know our essence is awareness. We are awareness. In fact, I am. It should not even be spoken in plural. Awareness is never in plural. Awareness is always singular. This is pure subjectivity. So I am is all there is. I am is all there is. First step. Until that becomes, as it were, one's second nature. Until that becomes one's reality, which is no longer questioned, witnessed, having to have confirmation. Everything falls away. It's become self-evident. Why? Because everything is self-evident anyway. Everything is for the sake of self.
So when someone decides to eat the cake and makes that decision, how the perception of oneself changes? Because let's say now I identify with my body, I'm Leszek, I know, and when I go through that process, or anyone else, how do I see myself then? Like, am I able to still kind of go into this suit and act and be a husband and work, or you said there's a service component that appears, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, you see, we always sit on a paradox, and this contradiction is only apparent, but it's good to have immediate seeing of, as it were, two different poles of reality. On one hand, there is no such thing as your decision to be so-and-so, and that in itself was displayed very clearly, that no one is a result or byproduct of what one wants to be. This is an illusion at best. This is some kind of appearance. Yeah, in a biography we can put things together so it sounds like this man or this woman is more self-made than others, right? But we know that's not true. We know all that comes and has its own take. We know that. Even if we, let's say, like we mentioned astrology, a good astrology can give us already the outlook and outline of an immensely successful person. And the success of that person would be already predetermined. So in other words, there are a lot of factors at play here. So it's more from spiritual point of view here, using that language, is what lessons we came here to learn. It's what we came here to experience if we speak at that human level. With regard to having cake and eat it too, one cannot do that, right? Is that same rule applies here. So if consciousness have this, to remain everything or keep everything intact, then that's what it would be. That's what it is. But if consciousness wants to override something and then introduce something else, like a remade man, then it will erase a lot of aspects by virtue of synaptic reorientation. So the neurophysiology can help us. That all these ideas of who we have about ourselves are only on the account of these electrical responses that we have, the synaptic connections that were made. And each time that synaptic connection is reignited, it reinforces it. In the What the Bleep Do We Know, it was clearly displayed even through animation. And then the whole cycle of electrical response, synaptic, that caused by synaptic connection, causes issuing of certain hormones into the system, which in turn creates the craving for specific thing and then sends back these responses to the brain to reinforce these connections. That's the picture. See, the circle is closed. Until these synaptic connections are unplugged and new synaptic connections are established, then that would remain intact no matter what. So in other words, we can even see this in view of understanding, with the help of the understanding of neuroscience, that the idea of an individual is not even up to an individual, is something else is at work. We could speak about it as microcosmos and macrocosmos, because these synaptic connections and what happens at the individual level is reflection of cosmic affairs. No more, no less. Reflection of cosmic affairs. And this is why in most of perennial traditions, the whole division of realms were always superimposed on the Adam Kadmon, was always superimposed, right? The sphere of heaven, right? With all the realms of heaven, heavenly creatures, the sphere of the emotive realm, all that corresponding, let's say, emotive states, in the sphere of instinctual activity, all that, right? That necessary phases of evolution, of having to survive, right? So that what gives that possibility for safety of the species, right? Fight, flight, or freeze, eventually gets us here, where we don't have to run away from a sudden, attack of tigers or wild bears, but it's still intact there. So this understanding is all that is required, that on the one hand, that what I consider myself to be, in a sense of what holds it all intact, is not my making. It just happened to be. I can take credits for that if I want to. Remember how, if you've been around in the spiritual discourses, how all spiritual teachers at some point who were hunting ego down then realized that the game needs to be a bit upgraded, right? The game gone out of, it's kind of becoming a bit stale, repetitive. So the upgrade was trying to hunt down the ego, is ego's attempt at remaining, right? And kind of like entering this loop. How do you work with ego? How do you deal with ego? Isn't that ego who wants to get rid of the ego? I remember it very well. It was like, I don't want to say exactly when, but it was like suddenly like, ooh, next level. Ooh, how interesting. So, but we don't work at that level. You see, this is why a more integral perspective is introduced, even as we drew this graphically, sort of to give us the picture of universal egoity. Of course, it can be immediately hijacked, and it will be, obviously. This is what I meant. We need to apply immediately understanding of two sides of the pole simultaneously. Of course, this kind of teaching, this kind of perspective would be there and then utilized to justify any otherwise necessity for psychological growth. So that would be disservice. So it's not to deny the fact or the conversation about ignorance. It's not to justify ignorance, no. Saying that Shiva is Nara in disguise, that's not to use this as a cop-out of the necessity to strive and rise. It will be a gross misunderstanding. It will be simply missing the point. You see? This is rather to release tremendous amount of energy of locking horns with what that energy would be much better off spent elsewhere. That's what it is for. Because I've seen a lot of spiritual aspirants over the years, over decades now, how they find very little move and progress when they try to work with ego. You see? So therefore, we utilize that approach. First step equals last step. That I keep repeating that from immersion to immersion. In Shai White's language, there is this understanding. The first step equals to the last step. So from the get-going, we know our essence is awareness. We are awareness. In fact, I am. It should not even be spoken in plural. Awareness is never in plural. Awareness always singular. This is pure subjectivity. So I am is all there is. I am is all there is. First step. Until that becomes, as it were, one's second nature. Until that becomes one's reality, which is no longer questioned, witnessed, having to have confirmation. Everything falls away. It becomes self-evident. Why? Because everything is self-evident anyway. Everything is for the sake of self. There is this great expression, comes from Upanishad, all loves flows to the self. All love flows to the self. And I want to immediately add here Rabindranath Tagore. I'm doing like a bit of a mix, kind of a DJ's mix. Know that and love. Tagore's case is like nothing is eternal, right? Know that and love. When we're doing it, all love flows to the self. Know that and love. Right? Yeah. So this is what opens really all the doors of perception. It doesn't matter. You see, like people, like loving someone is an egoic, selfish. No, there's no such thing. Whenever there's love, in any form, in any way, it's for the sake of the self. This is the integral understanding. So whatever that is, right? It's like Leszek, yeah, work, but it's also, you see yourself like this, right? If I'm a filmmaker, it's Shiva hidden himself as a Leszek, sits here and kind of like asking questions like, what do I do? It's fabulous start of the new Netflix series with the perfect cliffhanger, right? Where you can anticipate more of this series, more of these episodes. So maybe there is also something goes for saying that how long would Shiva be in the hiding? How long does Shiva hides himself from himself? So like if all this is true, why don't we challenge this perspective? So why doesn't, hang on a second, see? If this is true, then, I want a proof of that. Well, that in itself is a proof. The reality of this Maya is proof. Reality of how really it feels as that. Reality of Leszek is a reality. You see? Unquestionably. Until it is begin to be questioned. See? Sooner or later, what you will realize, it's all a matter of perception. It's all a matter of perception. Real or unreal are modes. You see? Modes of perception. This is why we use that as an epigraph to the Spanda course. Right at the get-going. Universal or individual is a matter of a mode of perception. So this is, let's say, this is where you don't enter bargains, you don't go into this, you don't go into any of the psychological kind of you cut through this with clarity. The rest all displays itself. in meditation, coming out of meditation, suddenly seeing things crystal clear. And then it's like, gosh, it's so clear. Okay, fine. It will wane off itself. And clarity will not be taken throughout, let's say, the next days or months, let alone, But there was this crystal clear moment of clarity, left sediment. Then it comes again. See? So in some, as I said earlier when we spoke before that, it can be everything will be erased and rewritten because that's what awareness wants. And with someone else, everything will be preserved. Nobody will know the difference. Nobody would know the difference. Only you would know the difference. See? Everything will be different. Same name, same job, same occupation, same thing. See? Everything is suddenly, before you took that tie from your cupboard, I don't know if you wear ties or not. I have fabulous collection, I can't throw them away. It's like beautiful Christian Lacroix, Kenzo, it's just, what do I do? Throw them away? My students don't wear ties. So I keep them for the next generation of students, maybe. Before you took that tie, it's like fed up, yet another working day. And now you took that tie, and it's like, oh my, it's like stars, space. Put it around your neck, you leave it in space. It's like you don't feel like you're suffocating yourself. You feel like, well, it feels so neat, crisp, Mode of perception. Nothing really outwardly changed. You can be wrapped in shawls, dreadlocks, and everything, and as miserable as a geek, Took all your desires with you to the Himalayas and to the desert. And no, that's why we kind of like, you're tired from ties, get yourself kaori like me, see? Yeah, why not? It's postmodernism, mix it, mix and match. So this is, you see, intelligence. So clarity. When clarity is there, clarity prevails. When confusion is there, confusion overrides everything. You see? So therefore, we never hesitate to bring these questions, dilemmas, so that we can bring clarity again and see clear into that. So we can then apply our understanding straight into where it belongs, into the field of experience, and only through what is being experienced and verified directly. Nothing left on trust, nothing left on, No. It's what you feel in a given moment in time. Everything else really doesn't matter.